Ole Miss, 6.5-point favorite going to Jordan-Hare to play Auburn, 7 Eastern, ESPN. For Auburn, man, played great against Georgia. Had the bye week, everyone was saying, hey, you see where this thing is pointing? Us included, we're like, hey, see the arrow pointing up for Auburn? They're going to trend the right direction. It's only year one. Like, give Hugh Freeze a little bit of runway here. I still think that's true, but then you lose in the way you did to LSU, Death Valley, at night. Offense looked anemic. Defense was bad. Like, it is what it is. If you find a way to beat Ole Miss at home in a night game, I think that would kind of recapture a lot of the juice that you sort of had brewing against Georgia in that spot. You beat Ole Miss, a team that is making a push now to win the SEC West, or at least be in that conversation. That would definitely be something that could spark the momentum train in a very real way. Now for Ole Miss, coming off a bye, just what we said a second ago, they are very much so in the hunt for the SEC West. Now they'll play Georgia here in a little bit, and that'll be a pretty big game in determining their SEC fate, but the A&M game also for Ole Miss will be a big deal. The bottom line, if you want to win the SEC West, if you want to play in Atlanta for the SEC title, you got to just take care of business to this point. Hope some things break your way, but it starts with a game like this. Sneaky game on the road now at Auburn. All right, it's not going to be the same as if it were played in Oxford. Just ask Georgia. Tough place to play, especially when that place is engaged, and I think they'll be engaged for a game like this. Some keys to this game, man. The first thing that I'm watching, probably the number one thing that has to happen in this game for Auburn if they want to win, they got to do a good job sorting out the Ole Miss passing game schematically. Because if you watch Ole Miss on tape, they do a really good job scheming guys open. Like you're watching an Ole Miss game, you say, how is that dude has like a country mile around him. There's nobody even near Dayton Wade. Nobody even near Jordan Watkins. What's going on out there? Well, it's because Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. dialed it up and have somebody running wide open. And so for Auburn, the way that they play defensively, they are pretty aggressive on the back end. Like they'll play a fair amount of man on the outside. They'll kind of let their linebackers play a zone underneath, and they'll let those safeties just kind of roam and play instinctively. Like see ball, get ball more often than not. LSU saw that last week and just manipulated them to the nth degree, scoring over 40 points in that game. So how does Ole Miss take advantage of that, and how does Auburn try and sort that out? So if Auburn can sort that out and at least be on their P's and Q's and keep from having that coverage bust where you have an Ole Miss receiver running wide open in space, it's going to give Auburn a chance to dial up some pressure. Ron Roberts is a guy who likes to apply pressure with his defense. The good news for Auburn now, Jackson Dart and company, Ole Miss is not tremendous against pressure this year. One of the worst sack rates in the country offensively is Ole Miss. So if you can sort it out and just be solid for the first, let's say, 2 seconds of the play, you give your defense a chance to get home, create some negative plays, good things start happening, you're at home, the crowd gets into it, that momentum bus gets out of the station, and good things are happening for Auburn. Now, if you don't, I mean, like Ole Miss, they're scoring 35 a game. Their offense has been prolific for the most part. They're going to win a track meet if you don't, or they're going to start running a track meet, and I hope Auburn can keep pace, if you're Auburn, that is, but I don't know that they're going to be able to do that with this Ole Miss offense. So keep an eye on that. Very, very big factor in this game. Other thing we're watching now, Auburn offensively, their bread and butter, their most successful attack has been the quarterback read option game. It has been quarterback runs. And the stats, I mean, the stats reflect that. The leading rusher for Auburn from a yards perspective, Peyton Thorne. Leading rusher when it comes to touchdowns, the most rushing touchdowns for Auburn this year, Robbie Ashford. So I think that has to be rolling the way that it did against Georgia for Auburn to win this football game, just by nature of that has been their fastball to this point in the year. The reason why it worked so well against Georgia for Auburn is they were able to capture the edge. They were able to kind of scheme it up and have their tight end or their H-back, whoever it ended up being, get out on the perimeter, capture the outside shoulder of that Georgia linebacker or edge defender, and then wouldn't you know it, Peyton Thorne's out the back door for however many yards. Now, I've said this too. I'm curious how they utilize Robbie Ashford going forward. It feels like to me they have more of an identity with Robbie Ashford playing quarterback. I understand maybe you feel better about Peyton Thorne's arm. That's fine. Hey, no pushback from me there. but just keep an eye on how they rotate these quarterbacks, because Robbie Ashford, I thought, played really well for the most part when they asked him to against LSU. Now, sort of a moot point, by the way, the offense played as a whole against LSU, but something to watch for with how Auburn attacks Ole Miss. Now, a big part of this for Ole Miss in defending that is going to be Suntarine Perkins. Suntarine Perkins, true freshman linebacker. We were really high here. We were really high on him here at On 3. Super fast, great athleticism. The defense as a whole is really athletic. Suntarine Perkins, I think they will ask to do a fair amount in that read option game against Auburn, being able to capture the edge and at the very least be able to force it back inside. You force it back inside for Ole Miss, I think good things happen. I say force it back inside as in Peyton Thorne or Robbie Ashford trying to get the perimeter. You set the edge, cavalry comes, you're good, and you kind of live to play another down. But the thing to watch, too, is the pressure that Ole Miss wants to play with. I talked about Auburn wanting to apply pressure. Ole Miss, Pete Golding, they want to do the exact same thing. They want to get after the quarterback. And so in an RPO scheme that Auburn runs, the run-pass option, not going to do the whole over-explain the RPO, but to put it simply, big plays should be there if Peyton Thorne can diagnose that pressure coming and get the ball out of his hands quick. Because whenever you blitz, you kind of do a little bit of risk it for the biscuit if you're a defense. Like, whenever I'm blitzing, there's some real estate behind whoever is blitzing, and if the offense is a step ahead of you and sees that blitz coming, we can get the ball in space to that playmaker, and good things can get happening for Auburn quick, fast, in a hurry. Like how quick I was just speaking a second ago, that's the kind of tempo I need Peyton Thorne processing at with this Ole Miss defense. Now, the tricky part about it for Ole Miss defensively, they're going to bring a blitzer from somewhere that's not the line of scrimmage more often than not. They'll put 3 in front of you on the line. Maybe they'll walk a linebacker up. Maybe they'll walk 2 linebackers up. Maybe it'll be a rush defender. Maybe it'll be a safety that's playing back and comes from depth. Like, there's going to be some sort of surprise baked in there pretty frequently with how Ole Miss plays defense. How does Peyton Thorne handle that? Again, if he handles it correctly, there could be some big gash plays here for Ole Miss. Just ask LSU by the nature of how they played Ole Miss a couple of weeks ago where nobody played defense. That was must-see TV, tell you what. All right, the differentiator in this game for me. As much as there is an opportunity for Auburn offensively to score some points, the differentiator and the thing that concerns me in this game for Auburn and the benefit for Ole Miss runs the football 55% of the time to a tune of right around 5 yards a carry. Quinshon Judkins is a grown man running the football. He's kind of starting to catch his stride as he's getting healthier. You would imagine the bye week only benefits that. Auburn is allowing 5 yards a carry, one of the worst in the country. I think Ole Miss is far too potent in the pass game that if they're able to run the football effectively as well and set up the pass game, going to be a consistent play from behind kind of thing for Auburn, and I don't trust what they have offensively to be able to match Ole Miss in this spot. Now, Jordan Hare could be the differentiator for Auburn in that same token. Jordan Hare could just be the difference maker and kind of keep them in this game with it being, the energy and then they play inspired and all that. But like at the end of the day, man, I think Auburn is still very much so a work in progress. And we all knew they'd be a work in progress. You brought in 21 transfers and asked all of them to play more or less. Like Peyton Thorne didn't have any spring practice. And it looks that way at this point in the season for Auburn. They look like they're still trying to put it together and mesh. So with that being said, we're going to take Ole Miss to win the football game. Again, I think the offense is just too much for Auburn in this spot. The run game is too much for them in this spot. We actually like Ole Miss to win and to cover. I think the final score is 37-24 for Lane Kiffin and company. But I'm not selling any Auburn stock. Again, this whole year for me with Auburn is just house money. All of this is house money for Auburn. See where you are this year. Kind of pick yourself up this upcoming season. Solidify your culture, solidify your standards. I still think, no matter how Auburn looks in this game, the arrow is pointing up. Now, if they win this game, we'll talk about it on Sunday and talk about what this means for them going forward. We like Ole Miss to win, and we think that offense is just a problem for everyone in the country, and Auburn is no exception. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.